Welcome to Proof Points, a podcast by Latham High-Tech Seeds. Family-owned and farm-proven for more than 75 years, Latham Seeds is growing strong. Now, here's product manager and host of Proof Points, Steve Sick.
Well, good day, everyone. We're here with Justin Prokish, RSM in Central Minnesota, for this week's podcast. How are you today, Justin?
Doing great. How are you, Steve?
Oh, good. A lot's changed since the last time we spoke. Can you tell us about some of the changes that have been going on in your area?
Yeah, so last time we talked a little bit about IDC and just the spring that we started out with. Corn has been pollinating now. The replants are just getting started. The flag leaf is just starting to come out, and we've got some warm weather here this week, and so I'm hoping that we get some cooler nights to help these replants out for pollination, and we don't have any issues with that. But
right
on the soybean side, soybeans are starting to recover a little bit from some IDC, but I have been taking some soybean cyst nematode samples to just send in to see where we're sitting on egg counts out there, because when we do look at these yellow beans out in the field, there's a lot of different factors that go into why that soybean plant is yellow or why it's dying off, and I think soybean cyst nematodes have a large part in what we're looking at in certain areas for sure. And so I've been taking some samples to send into the lab, waiting for the results to come back, but interested to see where we're sitting on egg counts, and that we have different options to offer for this next year when it comes to peaking and things like that. So
yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. I think it's important to rotate modes of action against cyst with the PI88, 788, and the Peking. I think that's very key. Do you know what you're running for egg counts? How high some of them are?
in the past, some were up to 30,000. I know between 5 and 10,000 is a common number in this area, and so just being able to manage that is going to be key. So
right. Yeah, that's really high. That's almost getting to the point where you just can't grow soybeans anymore at that high.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's going on as far as Latham hybrids, that are outstanding in the field? Hybrids or varieties?
So a couple different products that have been really standing out to me have been our brand new 5336 Power Core Enlist and 5556 Power Core Enlist. What I've been noticing with those couple products is their leaves tend to be about a half-inch wider than other products, and I think they're handling the stress a little bit better, and they can canopy themselves a little bit better just because of those wider leaves. And looking at my own plot, there's definitely some products that you can pick out that are handling that stress a lot better than others. So we do need, the rain showers have been pretty spotty in the last few weeks. As you get right around my home place, it's about 10 miles south of Redwood Falls. We haven't been catching many rains. You get north of the river, and it's been they've been getting some timely rains, helping with its pollination. As you get east and west, they've been catching some, but there's a pocket right in here that we haven't been as fortunate. So the corn is starting to roll up, and you can really certainly pick out those different products that are handling the stress better than others. So.
Yeah, one noticeable thing about the power cores that you mentioned is, with the wider leaves, as you talked about, However, if you feel the underside of the leaf, you've got a really good, basically a waxy protection underneath that leaf. And with that wider leaf, it shades the row, keeps that row cooler, keeps that moisture trapped in. I think those power core hybrids and certain other hybrids really have an advantage, like you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything on the soybean side that's standing out in your area?
There's been, and I've been saying it all year, but there's two products that have really been standing out to me. Two brand new products. Our new 16E3, 1661 E3.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be a huge player for us as we manage our tough IDC here in Southwest Minnesota. Um, it reminds me of some older varieties that we had in the Roundup Ready 2 that it you really can't see any yellow flashing, and it just powers through that IDC really, really well.
Mhm.
Um, the other one would be our brand new 2031, and that's going to have similar characteristics. And I like that one because I've got it right next to our go-to for IDC right now as our 1995,
Uh-huh.
and the 2031 is in some cases looking better than the 1995s, and
Oh,
so
wow, good.
that really makes some noise for me, and I'm excited to see what kind of yield we can get out of these things. So I'm
Mhm.
really excited about those two products.
Yeah, the fall is always a telltale sign for anything new, of course.
That's right. I've been
And
telling
what?
guys, I said I really hope these things yield like they look out in the field, because if they can handle IDC like this, we're going to pick up quite a few bushels to carry through those tough areas. So
Right, right. Another thing about those two varieties that Justin mentioned, 1661 and 2031, is that they carry the Peking source SCN resistance,
yep,
which leads into what Justin talked about earlier, trying to help manage that cis count plus good IDC. And all we got to do is hope they yield as good as they look, just like kind of what he said. So, Justin, how would you rate the overall, crop condition in your area? I know, like you mentioned, some areas have been receiving rain, but overall, how are things looking, and how would you rate it?
um, I would say they're a little on the downside. Is There's a pocket right north of the river in Renville County that looks really good. They they've been catching some very nice rains, and it's probably the nicest area I've seen. As you get south along the border, same case. They got quite a bit of rain early on, and things look really, really nice down there too. So there's just a pocket as you get along like Highway 14 and north a little bit
Mhm.
up to Redwood Falls. That's suffering a little bit, but overall, it's really tough because every it's in pockets,
Right.
and some areas look really nice and really good, and some areas are going to suffer a little bit this fall. So
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that too in my travels. You're seeing areas that look good, and not a whole lot of, in my opinion, what's going to look average. It's either good or slightly below average. It's kind of weird this year, but the drought, the heat that we're experiencing now this week has really played havoc, especially
yeah,
with pollinating corn. It's really tough on these warm nights for that corn to pollinate good.
yeah. I'm hoping
Is
with
there?
these warm days and this crazy heat that we're getting this week that we can stir up some storms, but we'll keep the hail out of it. But one thing I've noticed in the past few years, we haven't been getting those widespread um, thunderstorms that cover the entire state. Everything has been so spotty and
Mm.
such small cells that have been popping up. So,
That's either feast or famine for a grower.
yeah,
Then that's good and bad. I mean, obviously, if it's a bad hailstorm, you really want it to be isolated. But general rain, I agree with you. You just don't see those general 4 or 5 county 1 inch rains that go by anymore.
no.
So, that being said, is there any diseases or things showing up in your area?
Um, On the on the bean side, I've been seeing some Cercospora showing up a
Okay.
little bit, and on the corn side, I was just walking through some plots with one of my dealers last week, and there was some competitor products that were really, I mean, the whole entire plant was filled with northern corn leaf blade, and it was just odd because you just walked by it and you could definitely pick it out where there wasn't a lot of other things showing up other than just this one product. So there's some northern corn leaf blight. Have heard reports of tar spots showing up down in southeast Minnesota.
Okay.
I'm glad we haven't seen that travel west as far, but um, just thinking about those guys down there
Right.
and helping to manage that as best as we can as well.
Yeah. Have you seen much as far as rootworm beetles, Japanese beetles, anything along that line?
So there have been some. I haven't seen a lot of Japanese beetles, but there are definitely some northern corn or um, there's definitely some rootworm beetles flying around. I wouldn't say it's something real alarming,
Hmm.
but there. I mean, there's a few flying around when you're out in the field, and right when we started silking, there were definitely some out there, and I don't think we saw a lot of clipping on the silks, but um, our our populations are not as high as I have seen in the past. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed in my travels a lot of airplanes, flying around right now, airplanes and helicopters doing a lot of spraying. So there's a lot of activity going on right now out in the field.
yep. In certain areas, I think there's a lot of yield potential, and guys are trying to protect that with a fungicide. And the guys that I've been talking to, they have been throwing in an insecticide just to. I mean, they're doing an application, and so they're throwing an insecticide application in there as well to help manage those insects. So.
Right. Right. What would you be your recommended timing as far as fungicide and insecticide? I know we're, like you mentioned, we're in, full pollination in a lot of cases. Are we too late? Or do you think we still got time to put on some fungicide insecticides?
So it all depends on the product. There's a
Mhm.
couple new products that have come out in the last few years that are labeled to put on before flag leaf,
Mhm.
and it helps extend that lifetime of that fungicide out. And that's been there's that's becoming a lot more popular. Guys, you don't have to be out there when it's full tassel. Um, there are certain products that work best when you get from flag leaf to brown silk,
Mhm.
um, and it all depends on the different product that you're using, Steve.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I don't think there's, in my opinion, unless obviously you're getting into brown silk, I think it's highly recommended anymore to put on that fungicide insecticide just to give that added protection out there.
Yep,
It's pretty good, easy insurance, in my opinion.
I agree.
Anything on the soybean side?
I haven't been seeing a lot of diseases or anything showing up. Haven't found any aphids yet, so usually that's here in the end of this week to the
Hmm.
beginning of next week in this
Right.
area. Um, you get as we get closer to the Minnesota River and in that buckthorn, um, there's been that's normally where we start seeing it first, and then it starts traveling out from there. But
Hmm.
um, I haven't seen many yet, but that'll be something that we look at here the end of this week to into next week. So
Right. Yeah, they're hard to spot, and I know that population's kind of cyclical, goes up and down kind of every year, but hopefully they'll stay away this year. We don't need anything else to try and damage the crop after this heat
yeah, that's right.
by any means. Well, thank you very much, Justin. And with
Yeah,
that, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Proof Points. Thank you for tuning in and have a great week.